Good writing is hard to find. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. And today, because I've been writing a lot recently, I'm going to talk about writing. Now, I opened by saying good writing is hard to find. Why? Well, you'd think anybody could write. Decently, at least, right? Let's take the medium that I prefer. I prefer... There we go. Maybe that'll be a little less aggressive on the mic. What's the medium I prefer? The medium I prefer is screenwriting. I like multiple characters. I like a fast-paced environment, all that good stuff. Why is writing difficult? Well, number one, it is very difficult to execute an idea, whether you execute it well or not. What they say is that if you've written a script, you're ahead of 98% of people in Hollywood. Now, I don't know how true that is. I don't know how exact that is, and I don't really know precisely if that's completely accurate or whatnot. Okay? Now, that being said, I do know that everybody and their brother has a script idea. Everybody. Oh my God. The second you say you write, everybody has an idea. Now, some people have very good ideas, like my uncle. My uncle came to me with a really good script idea, and I'm still kind of batting it around in my head. It was an idea about multiple priests. It sounds like the setup to a joke, but it's actually the setup to what could be a really compelling story. And, my uncle is just a creative guy. My dad has very good script ideas. My dad has very good script ideas because my dad not only has watched a lot of TV, but my dad is, at his heart, he's a creative. I like to think. I think at his heart, he really is a creative, especially the way he lives in the business world, but the way he executes the business world is it's innovative. He sees things that a lot of people don't see, and he takes risks that a lot of people don't take. And they've paid off. Now, again, they're risks. I have no idea if I don't know what the odds were the risks weren't going to pay off. But that being said, a lot of people come to you with a lot of bad ideas. A lot of people with a lot of training have really bad ideas. You see a lot of bad writing in Hollywood. A lot of bad writing gets paid for. So where's the disconnect? Good writing is really hard, but bad writing really does spend a lot of time getting paid for. Why is that? There's just not a lot of good writing out there. And frankly, it's hard to write well. Let's add in the pressure of a deadline. Let's say you have to get a script done by 2:00 for a show that's airing the next week. You have to get the script done. You don't have time to make every line perfect the way you have time in, say, a script that nobody's watching you for. Like scripts that aren't bought yet and don't have any financial obligations tied to them yet, you can spend all the time you want batting them back and forth and waiting until you get to the perfect line. That's not always the case, especially when, hey, there's a deadline. There's a deadline on the clock. You don't have 6 months to write a script. You might have 6 months to write the draft that gets everybody excited. You don't have 6 months typically on the revisions. You typically, excuse me, the weather is killing my allergies. Killing my allergies. You just don't have time a lot in the real world. It's hard to find the time to create good writing. And frankly, a lot of people just aren't that creative. Even Academy Award winners sometimes don't have the best writing. What brings them to life is the fact that they get a director who can see the vision in the script and actors who can really, they can act. Allergies. You have actors sometimes who can be given the phone book and they can act the phone book and make it interesting and dynamic. I mean, take The Lord of the Rings. Right? The Lord of the Rings is excellent, excellent writing. Excellent writing. But even so, a lot of actors wouldn't be able to handle the language. Let's take Let's take one of the most iconic lines from Lord of the Rings. You shall not pass. Spoken aloud by Gandalf to the... God, I forget the name of the monster. This is terrible. I used to be better than this. But Gandalf in the Mines of Moria is guarding the path so that the rest of the Fellowship of the Ring can escape from the Balrog. That's it. Can escape from the Balrog. And the Balrog is walking the bridge to come across, and Gandalf gives his whole spiel about, I am the keeper of the secret fire of Arnor, blah, 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 blah. He states his credentials, essentially. And then he says, you shall not pass to the Balrog. And the Balrog obviously challenges that. The Balrog has no dialogue. It's a demon from the bowels of hell. It has no dialogue. It's a giant stone fire lizard monster dragon thing. But Gandalf says, you shall not pass, and he follows that up by repeating the line, shouting it. He shouts it at the Balrog and destroys the bridge. Now, there's two reasons that line is incredibly difficult to pull off the page. In a book, your imagination is taking over on that line, and you hear it in your head, and you see it the way you want to see it. Your imagination fills in the steps. For Ian McKellan, playing the role of Gandalf, there's two things that make that line difficult. Number one, nobody talks like that. Nobody says things like that. That's not normal conversation. That's not normal language. It's good writing, but it's not normal language. And there's no way to convert that writing to quote-unquote contemporary language, meaning that the writing can only take it so far. Ian McKellan has to execute that writing. And he has to be able to look at something that isn't there. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know this, but the Balrog is not real. It does not exist. And they could not get one to come on set for that moment. So Sir Ian McKellan had to pretend that he was being stared down by a dragon creature thing. And he had to do it believably. And he had to shout this monster down. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've ever played pretend older than the age of 5. It is very, very difficult. As adults, we're trained to not have our imaginations take over. Sir Ian McKellan did a masterful job of not only working his fourth wall, that's what they call it, you're working your fourth wall and pretending something is there that's not there, to show both his fear and his resolution against the Balrog, and then to execute the line, you shall not pass, and then shout at the nothingness that would later be filled in with special effects as the Balrog, you shall not pass. Boom! Breaks the bridge. It's this fantastic scene in the movie The Fellowship of the Ring, written well, but not contemporarily, meaning that he was an actor who not only could digest good writing, but could elevate the writing such that a modern audience ate it up. Ian McKellan can do that with the worst of writing, and when actors like that exist, like Cillian Murphy, like Ian McKellen, Robert Downey Jr., when these guys exist, you have a lot of leeway with your writing. So, why does good writing not exist? Because frankly, you rely on others to overcome the gap that writing often leaves. Unfortunately, that means that a lot of writers think that, well, that means I can basically put anything on the page. And you get shortcuts. And businesses take shortcuts. And studios take shortcuts because they can rely on somebody further down the line to bite the bullet. So I present to you the theory. Why is good writing so hard to find? Outside of books, good writing is so hard to find in the screenwriting medium because the buck can be passed creatively along to somebody else. Some writers are very good regardless of the time frame. Some writers just are not. They're not experienced enough. Anyways, that's my ramble on writing for the day. That's what I got for you. I don't know if that's particularly useful for you. It was fun for me. It's a Monday. exciting stuff has happening in the world. There will be more to talk about tomorrow. Today, we're just getting stuff on tape, and that's about it. That's all I got for you. I'm at my time limit. Anyways, remember, good writing is hard to find, so appreciate it when you hear it. But if you hear a strong actor saying a bad line and you say to yourself, wow, that actor really executed that poor line well, just remember, that poor writer was probably on a deadline, and that line may have been force-fed to him by an executive producer who fell in love with it. Anyways, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great day.